Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good afternoon, my Kardec Radio friends. It's such a pleasure to be here at 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, as we try to do each week, to bring you a story from the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, written by the Spirit Emmanuel through the mediumship of Francisco Candido Xavier. And we normally read a particular chapter, and this one is chapter 137, entitled Eating with Publicans. We will read the chapter. Also, we start off with a New Testament quote, which Emmanuel uses as his theme for writing this particular message. And then we go right ahead and give a few comments, then finish up with a prayer and sign off. So let's get to reading the message, and we say hello to Tiago, I believe it is. Nice to see you here. Let's read the message, and as I mentioned, it's number 137, Eating with Publicans. Matthew recorded in chapter 9, verse 11, when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your master eat with publicans and sinners?" Emmanuel then goes on to write, generally speaking, the many branches of the Christian community have not yet grasped the full meaning of the master's dining with the publicans and sinners. It was not only the Last Supper with his closest disciples that had singular importance. In that meeting in Jerusalem during Passover, Jesus reveals to us the sublime character of his relationship with his apostles. That event was about an intimate, familiar agape meal that solemnized both a loving farewell and a divine lesson at the same time. However, we need to remember that the Master met with this circle of friends after having dined with publicans and sinners. He partook of the supper with his disciples on a day of high religious excitement. But before that, he had participated in the joy of those who were far removed from the faith by benevolently meeting with them and giving them the same blessings of his love. Jesus' eating with the publicans had special meaning in the history of Christianity. It shows that the Lord embraces all those who desire the excellence of his spiritual nourishment as they toil in his vineyard, and that not only on occasions of faith is he present with those who love him, and that not only on occasions of faith is he present with those who love him. At any time and in any situation, he is ready to help souls who search for him. Jesus dined with sinners before he dined with the disciples for the last time. We must not forget that the divine table remains set for sublime service. It is up to the guests to make the most of this concession. Okay, so this little paragraph, or I should say chapter, let's first get one definition. The publicans. That in ancient Rome, the definition for publicans was a collector of taxes. That's what publicans were. And of course, we don't need any description for sinners. Those are people who are not exactly living the good life. And as he starts off saying, generally speaking, many branches of Christianity don't grasp the full meaning of the Master's dining with the publicans and the sinners. And I think that is pretty much kind of Emmanuel is not hiding anything in this. It's something you don't have to really dig down to uncover. Jesus embraces all those who desire the excellence of his spiritual nourishment, as they told in his vineyard towards the end of the message. He talks about this, but he takes the time to point out that yes, he dined with his closest disciples, and that was very important because it was during the Passover. But he had this wonderful relationship with his apostles because he was with them so often. But and there is a term here, agape, agape, and that agape is an interesting term because when you look at the first meaning, is that it's it kind of refers to your mouth and it's wide open and you're in surprise or wonder, but that's not the case with the Christian meaning. The Christian meaning, which is when you pronounce it agape as opposed to agape, is love, Christian love, which is not, it's just distinct from erotic love. There's also a second definition there under Christian theology, talks about a communal meal in celebrating the token of Christian fellowship. And that probably came a little bit later because of the Last Supper. So that meal, sharing that meal, had a lot to do with his loving farewell, and also a lesson that he's going to always be with us. But then Emmanuel, right after he talks about that in the second paragraph, in the third paragraph, he talks about the fact that the circle of friends, having done before he dined with the apostles, he dined with the publicans and the sinners. And he was very benevolent in this meeting with them, because here were these tax collectors and these so-called sinners that were enjoying his company. And this is giving us, he's giving them a blessing. And Christ does not distinguish with his blessings. He includes everybody. And he did that all throughout the time that he was here on earth, those 3 or so years that he preached the good news. He didn't spare anybody. Didn't matter who they were. And then towards the end here, as Emmanuel writes, Jesus' eating with the publicans has a special meaning in the history of Christianity. It shows that the Lord embraces all those who desire the excellence of his spiritual nourishment as they toil in his vineyard. And of course, the vineyard is our existence here on earth. And Emmanuel makes it clear that it's not all about your occasions of faith, which may be associated with, say, going to church or saying your prayers. This is your everyday life. And he also further goes on and says, at any time and in any situation, he is ready to help souls who search for him. And we know that Christ is available to any one of us at any time. It's just a matter of us coming up with the feeling or the vision or the invocation of asking for his presence. And again, Emmanuel in that last paragraph writes, we must not forget that the divine table remains set for sublime service. And there's where the key is, because that last sentence, it is up to the guests to make the most of this concession. And this is all about what Spiritist literature and the Spiritist talks continually emphasize, and that is the seeking, the feeling, the talking, the thinking, and the doing of the good. This is the constant refrain that is echoed throughout all of the Spiritist documentation. And of course, Christ embodied this throughout his life, always pointing out to the disciples and the people that he talked to and the people that he met, the good that is wrapped within everything. Of course, when you look at something like what's going on over in Ukraine with Russia terrorizing them, and you have difficulty at times even thinking about it because of the way these people are suffering. But one of the things that you could point out from a good standpoint is the fact that it's brought so many of the world's entities and nations together to use the sanctions and to also supply and take in the refugees and supply the military needs for Ukraine to go back up against Russia. And of course, they are being very, very impassioned about not giving in to the invasion. So the good is wrapped, not even wrapped, it's very exposed, this coming together of countries. So there is always this good that is there. God does not allow just willy-nilly things to happen. There is always some particular outcome that God has in store for us. So no matter whether we are on the bandwagon or we're walking along beside the bandwagon of the good news wagon, kind of trying to decide whether or not to jump on. As long as we're looking at treating people the way we want to be treated, then we have a chance to eat with Christ. We must all continue to do as best we can in the situations that we're given, to not be discouraged, and to focus on bringing peace into ourselves. This is probably the most important thing we can do nowadays. When we struggle to find out what is it that we can do to help this situation that's going on over there. And what the good spirits have told us is to start building this temple of peace within our hearts. We ourselves must not be angry, upset, revengeful, or hate. You saw a terrible demonstration of it if you watched the Oscars, where Will Smith lost his, misused his emotional, he had no emotional management, and reacted to, thank you, Sonny, reacted to the words from Chris Rock. And you can imagine that an outbreak, even though it got a lot of attention, probably a lot more than it probably should have, but it did. And this is a mismanagement of his emotional makeup, and that's not having peace in your heart. So many other ways for him to have handled the situation, but he took that physical, and of course it's gotten so much attention, probably too much attention. And again, back to the core here is building that peace in our heart, that you would be able to handle that insult that was labeled to his wife. But we all have to work on this, because we all struggle with this peace in our hearts. And that's the best thing we can do, because when we manifest the peace in our hearts, then it manifests in our family. And of course, it manifests anywhere we go, that we exude that energy of peace. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is for us to say a little prayer. Let us close our eyes and ask Mother, Father, God, Lord Jesus, and Mother Mary, and the spirits that be with us today, to humbly grant us the guidance and protection throughout our day, what remains of it. And of course, if God grants us another day, to always use it as best we can in interacting with our family members and our friends and our workmates and anybody else we come in contact with. We are all children of God, despite what some of us might think. And recognizing that we are all children of God, again, is a paramount issue that we must eventually overcome and load into our hearts, so that we see the divine in all we encounter. We also ask, dear God, for your love and healing energy to be spread throughout our family and friends, throughout our cities and states, and across this U.S. and the rest of the earth. It is needed everywhere on this planet at this time, to fight the virus, to make people aware of this climate that we have to rectify, and of course, to bring that peace into our hearts for these Ukrainian people that are trying to resist this onslaught from Russia. We always are thankful for the gifts that you give us each day, just the fact that we're here, able to use this time on earth to grow our intelligence, and more importantly, our morality, and how we treat our fellow individuals is so important. We once again thank you for this opportunity to present this little message, ask for permission to end this little prayer session, and so be it. Okay, my dear friends, thank you for being here. We always are grateful that to be able to deliver this little message, and we look forward, if God willing, that I'm able to deliver another message next Thursday. You take care. Let's see, there's take care.